All right, so to be honest, I got a little nervous in the middle of there. Like maybe I was oversharing too much and the police were going to walk down my wall. I hope I was not out of line. But this article, or this interview with Graham, he enunciated and he explained some things about the tyranny of the war on drugs. It was just like, whoa, totally resonated with me, and it's hard for me not to talk about it. So did that make sense? I mean, or did that resonate, or did it feel to you that I was kind of a little more out there than normal? It kind of felt like it to me, and I can never tell anymore. Cool. Julian pointed out that drugs can certainly enhance our experiences, but they're no substitute for self-study and spiritual path. And that's a great point. That I don't think that I would. That was one of Graham's great points too. Is that the task of a seeker is to integrate the lessons of an experience. In many ways, some of these experiences are personal experiences of the divine. And which is a vast difference than, say, what one gets in a church experience, where by the very nature of the hierarchy of it, you are filtered a divine experience through a pastor, through a priest, and you're kind of taught the spiritual experience, whereas the hallucinogen, the psychedelic experience is a personal one, which is why many people, after going through it, it shifts the way you see the world. A bit censored for you? Yeah, I mean, there's the thing is, there's this incredible breadth within this topic. It's a very broad thing, One of the cool things I liked about the Graham, I mean, even just talking about, actually, I didn't talk too much about it, did I? About ancient civilizations. I guess I touched on it, but he talks about all these incredibly specific things that more and more I'm like, I'm open to that. If you would ask me 2 years ago what I thought about ancient Egypt or ancient civilizations, some version of the Atlantis myth, or he, in his interview or on his website, he talks about all these other different places, and that that there was this massive civilization worldwide, along with more primitive societies, just like we have now. Then massive cataclysmic change, Ice Age stuff, and then a rebuilding. And in fact, they talk a lot, and a lot of the people who study this, that the Egyptian pyramids or the Egyptian civilization that we know now is the end of something. Highly recommend listening to. It's like a 2-hour or longer podcast. I put it on my iPhone and then brought it in my car and listened to it on a drive to LA. It's like perfect length, actually, and fascinating. I mean, I almost I couldn't I wanted to listen to it even as I was going in to use a bathroom. I didn't want to stop. It was amazing. You're a cop and you're okay with it, says Jay. If you're a cop, you have to tell me. No, that's not true. Everything in moderation, including moderation, says Redskin. Amen to that. And that's really, part of that. I mean, I posted, in my cool, where'd it go? I wrote that I found this article when I was at the tanning salon, and I tan. You know what? I know that's from many people's belief system, that is a silly, stupid, unhealthy thing to do. But it's in my place in my life right now, I'm okay with the risk of it. It cleans up my complexion. I feel better. I I'm okay with it. Now, a few things to put into that. I don't have in my, goals living as long as possible. That's not in my goals. I'm surprised I live this long. This is kind of bonus round for me. I don't have kids and I don't plan to have kids, so that reduces some of that feeling of like I want to live as long as I can to be there to provide for and to watch my young ones grow up. And that, I think, kind of forces you into a little bit more of a safer style of living. I was at LIB hanging out with a couple, and the wife was talking to me about how, she's really trying to convince her husband to be less reckless than he has been his whole life, because now they've got a child and he needs to be there for this child. 5 years ago, if he was, doing a stunt and rolling under a moving car at Burning Man, it was hilarious and like, oh man. But now, the risk involved is just too great. I agree that once you throw in that kind of responsibility, it complexifies things. Now, it's not black and white though, because at the same time, the most important thing, I believe, as a non-parent who has no right saying this, but one of the most important things that you can teach a child is the importance of making yourself happy and finding your joy. And the only way to do so is to do that yourself and to be a person who finds a way to make themselves happy and find their joy, even if that means spending a little less time with your child. Because that lesson of, oh, that is being joyful, that's what I need to do in life. That's incredibly powerful if you can be around someone who can demonstrate that. So, in a related note, Amanda says that without children, I have an option. I'm still allowed to speak to that. Okay, good. I want to preface it just by saying that, look, I always think it's crazy or funny or infuriating when, somebody gives advice on something that they have no experience on. So I'm only passing on things that I've been influenced in reading and other things. Like Byron Katie is the one who talked about the importance of demonstrating your pursuit of joy, more so than the importance of having a nice home or making sure that they have their laundry done or any of the things that you feel like you have to do as a mother. Actually, if you're panicked all the time and freaking out, then that's a really important thing to realize that you're teaching the child. So I mentioned 3 things that I watched this last week that were like, wow. One was the I Am documentary. One was the Joe Rogan podcast with Graham. I can't ever say his name. What is it? Graham Hancock. And the third one was a show that Tony Robbins did for a few episodes. I'm not sure if he's still doing it. So let me do this. So Tony Robbins had this show, I think it was last year, it was called The Breakthrough. And there are a number of the episodes available on the internet, and Bealicious was watching them and was like, these are awesome, you're going to love these. And I've seen a little Tony Robbins. I've always felt that the things that I've seen of him were incredible. I remember growing up, it was kind of cool to tease Tony Robbins and make fun of him. I don't know why. I guess because of the same thing we always talk about here, about those beliefs. And and I would tease him the same reason I probably tease someone who was a little feminine. Just bad judgments that came from the outside that I took on for fear of being judged myself. But actually, the one thing that Tony Robbins that I remember from seeing 10 plus years ago, he was talking about how in his previous marriage, he was in an argument with his wife. And as he started to raise his voice and go, what? Trying to, make his point and raise his voice, she just got quieter and quieter and then walked out of the room. and both of them freaked out. In her house, if you raised your voice at someone, that was like totally crossing the line. In his house, if you turned your back on someone and walked away, that was totally out of line. In their family, they would yell it out, get their feelings out, and then kind of like come to peace. In her family, they would walk away, cool down, and then come to peace. But because their communication styles were different, they had a massive nuclear explosion that was almost impossible to get through. Not because of the issue, because of the communication difference. And I was like, whoa, epiphany! Anyway, the show that I saw, the Breakthrough Show, which is also linked on the Hug Nation Facebook page, is the specific episode that they're all great that I saw, but the specific one was a woman or family, and the young daughter was in an accident in a go-kart and ended up almost dying, or dying for a few moments and then coming back. And that moment, that experience of almost losing her daughter made this woman just click into a different place. She was a nurse and then became so panicked about injury and death. Sirens would make her have a panic attack. And they would always talk about the accident, what's happened since the accident. You know, they couldn't even go over to the part of the house where the go-kart hit thing, you know, it was like, and she wouldn't let the kids out of the house. She wouldn't let them play, you know, they're having a farm. She wouldn't let them play with the horses that they loved. She's like, you know, get them on their protective gear. It's like, panicked about something happening. Always about the accident, you know. And through Tony's awesome stuff, he gets her this huge shift of perspective where she realizes that, wait a minute, my daughter was in an accident. She almost died, but she lived. And so she started calling it the gift. And the change in her story, in her limiting beliefs, in the walls of her life, changing something as simple as going the accident, which is walls, to the gift, which is openness and opportunity. Change. She just like, her face just changed. It was kind of thing like, wow, amazing they caught that on camera. I mean, it was like incredible. It's kind of thing, I'm sure when they started filming, they're like, I hope something like this happens. And how incredible to see that. We were talking about how with the beliefs that you get your whole life affect the way you see the world. But in an instant, the way you see the world can change, and that too can change your reality into a horror story or into a magical heaven. It's a very crap or cone thing. And being aware, questioning our beliefs, learning to question our beliefs, practicing questioning the beliefs to keep steering them to a happy place. You don't need to question the happy ones. That's perfect. So I recommend the show Breakthrough. They have them on YouTube, and it's good TV. Yeah, I normally am down on TV, but I'll give it the hey, two of these, very good. Look at all the more people have popped in. If you are new in the chat room, welcome. This afternoon we've got the Venus is crossed in front of the sun, right? Which I think if you say the right phrase and hop on one foot and invoke the ancestors of Atlantis at that moment, I don't know. But it's cool, right? Venus represents the things we love, the people we love, how we connect, and so does the sign of Gemini. It's very much about highlighting and drawing attention to our desire nature. Well, there we go. Right on theme. Oh, the URL got pulled out. Let me change the chat options to allow the links, and then you can repost that now. Welcome, Gus. Oh, cool. Someone just tweeted, yesterday was a grumpy day for me until my homegirl showed me Clear Straw by Halcyon. I never knew how powerful hugging yourself is. Yay, thank you, Muffkin. Was there something else I was going to say today? Now I'm all drawing a blank. I talked about how gay I am. Talked about reality, the nature of reality. I think that's kind of those are the bookends of the topic of today, right? So we got 1 hour and 15 minutes before the Venus experience. Sweet. We've got about 12 more minutes in the live broadcast. We'll be back again at 6 p.m., which is 12 plus 4. Is that right? If you want to come back tonight. Anyone have any questions or issues or things that are going on in their life that they would curious what my perspective on that would be? I'd love to answer a question. Thanks for joining us if you have to leave or need to leave or want to leave. This is the Belief Buffet. When your belly's full, you're welcome to step away. Or even when you just realize that this food ain't for you anymore. Please, Belief Buffet is a voluntary, consensual experience. Well, we'll see you soon, Clay Chica. Good job going with the flow. You don't want to make yourself insane fighting the current. So be careful. Don't look directly at the sun. That's good advice. Instead, find a small child to look at the sun and have them explain to you what they see. Don't do that. How long do I leave my hair blonde? Oh yeah, I'm bleaching my roots right now. I need to do one more bleaching before I dye. So I leave it in, depending on, between 45 minutes and an hour and a half, probably. But my hair is incredibly damaged, so I don't, if I had long hair, I'd have to be more careful about just doing my roots and not, my scalp tomorrow will be covered in sores. I know this is not a pretty thing, but I will have lots of little scabs on my head from the extensive bleaching. And then in a week, I'll have pink dandruff because the dye that I will put on tomorrow will then stain the dry skin. Am I making you hot? And then my hair is really brittle and damaged because of the just extreme over bleaching I do. Now, the truth is I like it that way because it then sucks up hair product, and my hair normally is it's been wavy my whole life, and when it's bleached, I can wear it, I can do whatever I want with it, which is kind of fun for someone who's always had wavy hair that you're kind of at the whim of. Don't mean to be political. I voted absentee. The Peace and Freedom Party, I mean, in general, I'm generally frustrated with the political system, but I vote every time I can, and partially just because I think it's important to have numbers. And when in doubt, I usually vote against the incumbent. I love, the in terms of if you're talking in the presidential realm, I love a good nadir, I love a good third party, but I generally try to throw my vote into, I voted for Obama, and I don't know. I mean, I don't really do the work to speak too eloquently or informed about politics at this stage in my life. I think that politics is a hobby and a pastime, and you can get into politics the same way you get into sports or celebrity, and that we can get convinced to believe whatever we want, and whatever we think is right, we will find evidence to support that. And the political parties are incredible at playing on that and making other people stupider and us so much smarter. And unfortunately, that system creates an environment where the cooperation needed for any real change becomes real rough, real tough. I mean, basically, I vote against incumbents and against anyone that's been caught in corruption. Jillian saying that the two-party system is dysfunctional. We need alternative systems. Absolutely. The bummer is that, I mean, if anyone is familiar with Lawrence Lessig, he has a organization called, I think it's changecongress.org, and his whole thing is like, he worked for years trying to change policy and trying to deal with copyright law, and he argued in front of the Supreme Court. And what he realized after all of this fight and all of this work in political, and he's a genius, he's like, it doesn't matter. Until we change election reform, it does not matter. Because the system is corrupt. Not meaning there are evil men, meaning for a good man to survive in the system, he has to play the game. And the game involves fundraising. I'm not good at numbers, but the percentage of time that any politician has to use to fundraise versus to do his job is insane. And so creating a perception of a winning candidate is by far the biggest part of a politician's job. And that's just so screwed up. And when you need money, you owe people all the time. And if you owe people all the time, you're not in a very good position to be making decisions on the behalf of your constituents. Why bother voting at all? Because knowing that a certain number of people are voting still makes a politician believe or convince them that they have to listen to some degree to what people are saying. If they think that all that matters is, if they don't think anyone's listening, then they'll just do whatever the people that are donating want. But at least if they think that clearly there's these huge groups of people and populations that are voting, so I need to address, even if they don't know what you want, I think just still knowing that you are a possible vote for them allows I think it just changes the equation a little bit. So, I've started to give in my political donations. I mean, I did give money to Obama last time, but my political donations are much more, now go to changecongress.org, more than Move On, who seems to have a feeling like, well, if I email you 4 times a day, that will make democracy 4 times better. Like, come on, people. You have to raise a quarter of the salary in order to run. Interesting. I'd vote for you. In fact, I'll contribute to your campaign, Tom. So you let me know. Let's do a little Kickstarter. I'm in. Well, Bridie, as far as listening to the people of your state, I mean, the bummer is that advertising and marketing is so powerful in this day and age that you can, a voter is very susceptible to what they receive in the days leading up to an election. And so you get to a booth, and most of us don't know who these people are. Most of us haven't been paying attention to their voting records. So what I did is, I went to Move On, had a thing online that kind of said who the progressive candidates in different, areas were, and so I often go to that. Or sometimes I'll ask people that I know who are really into it and say, who do you think? I know that's probably not I'm not a good American by doing that, but if there's somebody that I trust in terms of the way they see the system, and they tell me who they would vote for, I'd rather have them get 2 votes than, so I will sometimes say, cool, have you got a marked up ballot? Let me see it. Am I going to get taken away? Is that legal? I think it's legal. Yeah, I always mail in. I always do absentee ballot. It just makes it, like a permanent. I don't have to apply anymore. I'm a permanent absentee. It comes to my mailing address. I do it at my leisure and I send it in. Or if I'm lazy, then I go to a polls the day of and drop it off. But it Then I don't have to worry about planning around the election. Doing the research online is so much easier now than it used to be. I mean, they used to get like mailings, that get so many mailings, but at least now you can find a site that may align with your beliefs. You know, I don't even know, I didn't check if changecongress.org has a kind of voter guide, so you can find out if they will let you know if there's people in your district that may be gross polluters or whatever. Man, look at all these awesome people who are in the chat room. And hi! Which was kind of the theme of today's Nation. Get high! No, it wasn't that bad, was it? I don't think so. It was just saying, free your mind, man! By any means necessary. See how I did that? A little Malcolm X in there. Every Congress should start with a huge cinnamon roll hug. And then I think we should reduce the time that Congress is in session by 2 weeks and have them all go to the Peruvian jungle and do an ayahuasca ceremony first. Then they need to listen to that speech by Charlie Chaplin, and then they can go to town and do their jobs. Can we vote for that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Joe, are you voting? 7, 8. Anyone else? 9, 10. All right, I think we've got a majority. Done. Dear Congress, we, the people of the sovereign nation of Hug Nation, hereby give you these demands, requests, and love-filled advice. Period. Exclamation point. Comma, smiley face.